What's up guys, my name is Joe. Today I'm going to take you through my most recent ESPN mock draft for the 2025 fantasy football season. We're going to outline some of my top picks as well as the biggest steals of the draft, and this is going to be a pretty regular league settings wise. It's going to be 12 team PPR scoring. With that being said, let's get into the first player that I took in this mock draft. I got unlucky enough to be stuck with the 8th pick, one of my least favorite spots to be drafting in the first round in a 12 team league, but I made the best out of it, selecting Puka Nacua, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams. There are a couple reasons why I absolutely love this pick. Obviously, Puka Nacua was limited with that knee injury last year, but when he came back from injury, he was the wide receiver 6 in fantasy points per game. That's an average of 18.8 points per game, which is just elite efficiency scoring-wise. Nacua had 79 receptions and 990 receiving yards in only 11 games. That is ridiculous. And I have so much faith in the offense around him. He has quarterback Matthew Stafford. Lining up on the other side is veteran superstar wideout Devontae Adams. Sean McVay is still the head coach there. He's fantastic on both sides of the ball. And I think if he stays healthy, Puka Nacua is in a fantastic position to maybe be one of the top wide receivers in the entire NFL. I think he was well worth the pick at 8, and I was really glad he fell to me because picking after Puka Nacua in their ADP, there's a lot of guys that kind of are around the same tier for me, and I didn't want to have to choose between several guys that I think are going to perform pretty much the same. I wanted to have that upper tier guy, and Puka Nacua, who I know is going to be super productive. Moving on, we had the 5th pick in the second round. We used that to take Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was a home run pick. In my opinion, this was absolutely fantastic value for the second round, especially 5 picks in. Brian Thomas Jr. as a rookie was the wide receiver 4 overall in PPR scoring last year. He led that elite rookie wide receiver class in yards, and he was just fantastic. He had 1,282 receiving yards and 10 receiving touchdowns. And just like with Puka with that efficiency, Brian Thomas Jr. was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game last season. That was with an average of 16.7, and with quarterback Trevor Lawrence back on the field for hopefully the entire season in 2025, Brian Thomas Jr. should have a standout sophomore year. Starting off, I haven't taken a running back in the first 2 rounds. I'm going with a 0 running back strat, as you can see, and that's going to continue into the 3rd round because the value here was way too good to pass up yet again. In round 3, I got Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. And we're continuing that trend of standout, efficient fantasy wide receivers because Higgins was the wide receiver 3 in terms of PPR fantasy points per game last year. He averaged 19.3 fantasy points per game and was absolutely electric when on the field with quarterback Joe Burrow. In only 12 games in 2024, he put up 73 receptions, 911 receiving yards, and 10 receiving touchdowns. That's a ridiculous number, and a really similar stat line besides the touchdowns, of course, to Puka Nacua. T. Higgins has that high floor because of that touchdown production. He's going to get in the end zone for your fantasy team. He scored 22 receiving touchdowns over his last 41 games. That's over 50%. You know how good of a playmaker T. Higgins is. He's such a good contested catch specialist. I think he's going to continue to shine if he can stay on the field, which has been the major issue the last few seasons. But with a quarterback like Joe Burrow under center and Jamar Chase spacing out the defense, he should have no trouble getting production if he's on the field. 3 rounds in, I've taken 3 wide receivers, and you're probably wondering when am I going to take my first running back? It's not here. I took Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts in the 4th round, and this was probably my favorite pick of my entire draft. Hurts has been a top 7 fantasy quarterback in each of the last few seasons, and in his last fully healthy season, playing 17 games, he finished as the overall QB2. So we know the floor is there, but the ceiling is too with the rushing upside. That's what I always target in quarterbacks, that rushing upside. He had 150 rushing attempts, 630 rushing yards, and a whopping 14 rushing touchdowns last season. Of course, a lot of that is due to the tush push, that one play the Eagles run constantly, but it was not banned this past season. They're going to continue to run it in the red zone. Hurts is going to get those rushing touchdowns. He's also a pretty solid passer and has great weapons in Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. I fully expect Jalen Hurts to finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year, and if he doesn't, he will at least finish within the top 8 for sure. We're finally getting on to some running backs. The next round, I took Quinshon Judkins, rookie running back for the Cleveland Browns. Look, this guy's polarizing. I have some serious questions about his vision and his long speed, but the talent is obviously there. He was selected in the 2nd round by Cleveland, so the draft capital is there, and he has elite burst, physicality, and he put on a show at the NFL Combine showing just how good of an athlete he is at his size. The big lure for me on Judkins, though, is his landing spot with the Cleveland Browns. There is not a good passing attack there right now. They're going to have to lean on the running game, and there's no one else to lean on besides Quinshon Judkins, and why would they not? They selected him in the 2nd round. This landing spot has given him the potential to be an every down back because they have nowhere else to turn in this offense. The run game has to be the focal point. Judkins was my RB5 in this year's draft class. I believe in him enough to think that he can be extremely productive when given the volume. Moving on to my next pick, it's another running back and another rookie, Travion Henderson for the New England Patriots. I grabbed both Ohio State rookie running backs in Judkins and Henderson, and I am not ashamed to say it. I could have taken Tony Pollard here, but I swung for the upside. You don't play fantasy football to get 5th place, you play to get 1st place. I think Henderson gives me a way better chance of doing that. He is an absolute home run threat. He can rip off 50-yard touchdown runs at any given moment. He's great in the receiving game. He's a great run blocker, which is going to keep him on the field. And I think he's going to get more work as the season goes on, taking over for Ramondre Stevenson. But since this is a PPR league, I wanted a running back that gets a lot of receiving volume. I think Henderson is going to get exactly that. And he is a great rusher as well. He has good vision, he has great speed, he's a good athlete, and he is just going to be fantastic for the Patriots. He's a risky RB2 to have on my team, but I'm really glad I got him where I did in the 6th round. Filling out the rest of my team, I got Tedero McMillan, Chris Godwin, Jonnu Smith, Jordan Mason, Justin Fields, Trey Benson, Josh Downs, Trey Harris, Kaimi Fairbairn, and the Packers defense. If you guys are enjoying the video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this designed to help you win your fantasy leagues this year. Of course, there were also unfortunately a couple times where I was gonna take a player and they got grabbed the pick or two before I was gonna draft them. Super unfortunate, especially considering I was gonna get a tight end earlier than I did. I ended up getting Jonnu Smith, which is solid, but I was gonna take Evan Ingram, and I'll tell you why. First off, in round 5, I plan on taking Chuba Hubbard. I pivoted once he got taken 2 spots before me and took Quinshon Judkins, who I like about the same. I think Hubbard's going to be a bit better, but Judkins is still a very solid option. Then in round 8 is the big one. I was planning on taking tight end Evan Ingram of the Denver Broncos the entire round. That was my game plan. He's a tight end I'm super high on. I think he can be top 5 at his position this year, and he got taken the pick before me. I think he's such a good pick for this Denver offense. Sean Payton obviously loves him. And this is a Denver passing attack that was in need of a tight end. They didn't really have one that was super effective in the passing game last year. Evan Ingram is one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the entire NFL, and Bo Nix is going to really benefit from his presence. Then around 11, I was really looking forward to taking Emeka Egbuka, rookie wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he's such a talented player. He's super pro-ready, and I was really geared up to take him, but then he got taken the pick before me, so I pivoted, took Justin Fields, quarterback for the Jets. I don't like taking quarterback that early, but he does have a lot of rushing upside, so if my starting quarterback does unfortunately miss a bit of time because of an injury or something, I can plug him right in, and hopefully that rushing upside will give him a good floor. Then around 12, Tyler Warren was the guy I was hoping to pick to grab a backup tight end. Unfortunately, he was grabbed a couple picks before me, and as a Colts fan, that wasn't my favorite thing, obviously. I ended up taking Trey Benson, who has a good bit of upside. I think he was a good player coming out of Florida State last season. He could be in for an increased role, but if he's not, it's a 12th round pick anyway, so who cares? Then I tried to steal that backup tight end hole again with Tucker Kraft in round 13. Unfortunately, that didn't go down as I planned, but I did get Josh Downs a couple picks later, which is a huge steal and a pick I'm really happy with. Moving on to our last part here, I'm going to go over the biggest steals of the entire draft for me. This is different than my favorite picks or the best players I took. It's my favorite picks in relation to their ADP. Who's going to give me the most value, in my opinion, at the end of the day? I think T. Higgins is the first player that came to mind in round 3. He slid way down the draft board and I was able to grab him. Obviously, people were scared because of his injuries over the past couple years, but I'm willing to take the risk. Especially as my wide receiver 3, I can plug him in that flex, and he was the wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game last year, like we said earlier. He's in one of, if not the best passing offense in the entire NFL, so he's gonna get volume if he's on the field. And he's the clear wide receiver 2. They re-signed him to a long-term contract extension this offseason. They are ready to have him in their long term. As long as Burrow and Higgins are on the field together, I feel very confident he will be a very productive fantasy receiver. It could even finish in the top 15 or so. Not to mention that touchdown upside, all stuff we discussed earlier, but I'm really excited to have him as my wide receiver 3 if I can get him there. I think Higgins is going under the radar in fantasy drafts, and most of that is because he is a wide receiver 2 in this offense. Guys who are second options for quarterbacks don't usually get drafted that high in fantasy, but you have to remember this is Joe Burrow we're talking about at quarterback. He gets so much passing volume. I promise you there will be enough for both Chase and Higgins, like there always has been when they're on the field together. But anyways, we've already talked about Higgins before. Let's get into the other 3 guys I think were absolute steals. We have Tedero McMillan, rookie wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. I got on the top spot in my bench. I was so excited to get him because I love him as a prospect. He has an absolutely ridiculous blend of athleticism, size, and quickness. His contested catch skills combined with his ability after the catch make him a really unique receiver prospect that was drafted number 8 to the Carolina Panthers. He's going to step in as their wide receiver 1 for an improving Bryce Young at quarterback in a really up-and-coming Panthers offense. He was a very polarizing prospect, but I think the ceiling is absolutely there, and if I can get him on my bench, there's no risk involved. I don't have to start him immediately, and that is a huge win for the value of my fantasy roster. And on top of that, I think it's just fun to draft rookie wide receivers. I'm sure a lot of you would agree with me. It's really fun to see which ones skyrocket in fantasy value because they usually do, at least a couple of them out of every class in their rookie seasons. Anyways, I'm betting on Roy McMillan to be an absolute stud out of the gate, and if he isn't, he's on a bench spot. No harm done. Next, we have Josh Downs, and I'm a Colts fan. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but this dude is elite. I did a film breakdown of him during the season on this channel. You can go back and watch that if you want. But I broke down how he is just a fantastic route runner, a good separator, and he is really good at making really difficult catches in the clutch. I think he's geared up to be the Colts wide receiver 1 this season, which, of course, the quarterback situation is a bit murky, but he's shown the ability to be quarterback proof. He's produced with both Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, and a couple others. If Daniel Jones is the starter, I think he's got a shot to be pretty fantasy relevant. And something's just not adding up because everyone's claiming him to be this big breakout candidate, but his ADP is still in the 13th round, and no one can explain that to me. If he's sitting there in the 13th, I'm going to take him every single time. It's a no-brainer. I mean, he had 803 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns last season with one of the worst quarterback rooms in the entire NFL. That was one of the easiest decisions of the entire draft. Once Tucker Kraft was taken, Josh Downs, I saw him down the board. It was the easy target. If he has a huge breakout season, I would be the least surprised person in the world because he has been showing this talent for years. Finally, we have another guy that I've been preaching at people to draft all offseason. That's Jordan Mason, running back for the Minnesota Vikings. They went out and traded for him this offseason, granted in exchange for a late draft pick, but I think he's going to step in and be a very big part of this rushing attack early on. This is a reinforced Vikings offensive line built to protect J.J. McCarthy in the passing game, and also Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason on the ground. And sure, you can say everything you want about Kyle Shanahan's system boosting running back success. I get it. A lot of running backs have a lot of success there, but it's hard to ignore that this guy passes the eye test every single time. He's physical, he's elusive, he's got good speed, he breaks off big runs, he's good on the goal line. I mean, really, when the Vikings get down to the 1-yard line, who do you think's getting the carry? 30-year-old 207-pound Aaron Jones or 223-pound Jordan Mason? I don't think I have to answer that for you. I mean, the risk on this guy is basically zero. You're paying nothing for him in terms of ADP, and he could seriously be a top 20 running back this season. I mean, we're talking about a guy, granted, in the Shanahan system, who has averaged 5.3 yards per carry over the course of his career. I think at the very least, he's going to take Aaron Jones' touchdowns on the goal line. I think he's a more effective back in those situations. And if he can carve out a role outside of the red zone, which I think he can, he's a very talented player, the fantasy value is going to be there. I've been all in on Jordan Mason this entire offseason, and the best part is that with his ADP, like I said, there's no risk. It comes back to what I said at the beginning of this section. I'm talking about guys who are values in relation to their ADP. You look at Josh Downs, you look at Jordan Mason, guys going at the end of drafts, late round flyers. I think both of them could be top 20 at their position if the stars align, and I think there's a very good chance of that happening. That's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you think of my mock draft in the comments. I thought it was pretty solid, but if you think it sucks, let me know. I think I would give it a B or a B plus grade overall. The running back and tight end positions were pretty risky, but I nailed every other pick in my opinion. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this every single week. I'm Joe, and this is Fantasy Trading Room.